Well, Happy New Year and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Laura Frankie, and welcome to our first sustainability event of the year here at HDC. I'm the Sustainable Buildings Manager, and just quickly before we jump into our presentation for today, I wanted to make sure that you all are aware that we have relaunched our website. It's really exciting. It looks fabulous. And whether you're a longtime HDC friend or new to our community, really encourage you to take a look. Our sustainability work is there in part. We're in process of uploading a whole lot more of our sustainability work, so check back frequently on that and take a look at the legislative updates that are posted daily and keep you up to date on what's happening with the affordable housing legislative session. So in addition to that, I wanted to just kind of shout out that we do have a full slate of Learn at Lunches that are in planning for this year. And we're going to have our first ever sustainability live event. We're going to do a Sustainability Innovations Summit in April. It'll be April 23rd at the Panoramic Center at the Pacific Tower. So if you've never had an opportunity to go to an event there, I can just give you the heads up. It's an amazing view, and we're going to have some really great speakers on new and upcoming technologies, as well as lessons learned from things that have been tried, and just share some experience from the field. So that's enough about us. Let's get started with why you've joined us today. So welcome to our Learn at Lunch for addressing toxins in affordable housing flooring. We're fortunate to have two exceptionally talented and qualified speakers today who are going to walk us through the health, equity, and product use values of originally sourcing and or replacing existing flooring using improved options. So you'll hear also a little bit about the work that we're currently doing in collaboration with this team, and thanks to a grant from the Washington Department of Ecology, where we're also working with DESC, who's partnered with us for our first pilot project. So that's going to be a feature of this conversation as well. Our speakers are Megan Liu and Gladys Liao Young. Megan Liu is a contractor for Toxic Free Future, a national nonprofit based in Seattle, and she previously served as Toxic Free Future's senior science and policy manager, where she worked on research and Washington state policy regarding exposures to toxic chemicals. Through science, market change, and policy, Toxic Free Future works to win protections against toxic chemicals to protect the health of humans and the environment. Gladys Liao Young is a founding partner at Side by Side Architects, also here in Seattle. Her firm works side by side with populations most impacted in the mission-driven sectors, including affordable housing, community and cultural spaces, K through 12 education, and social supportive services. She has been practicing architecture at the intersection of design, sustainability, and equity for more than 30 years. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Gladys and Megan. Oh, actually, one more housekeeping thing. I'm sorry, Gladys. We're just going to be, the chat is open if you want to drop questions in as they occur to you. We will also be having time at the end of the presentation to do Q&A, so no pressure to put it in the chat, but if you want to just, get it off your mind and it'll be queued in then as we go, that's up to you. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. Hi, everyone. So again, my name is Megan, and I will be kicking off our presentation today. So like Laura mentioned, we are here today as a project team to discuss how safer flooring can be selected and used in affordable housing.
The place to go.
When we
Oh
talk
yeah.
about safer materials, we mean those that are healthier for both human health and the environment. You may be wondering why this is important and how the recommendations we'll provide today were formed. This all really started with HDC, Side by Side Architects, and Toxic Free Future coming together, recognizing the importance of how widespread the impact can be when hazardous building materials are used. Many building materials can be made with toxic chemicals, and we'll get into this more in this presentation. But for flooring itself, we know that flooring can contain a variety of chemicals that are harmful to human health and can contaminate the environment throughout their life cycles. By combining our shared expertise spanning across affordable housing, architecture, material health, and health equity, our three organizations came together proposing a flooring replacement project. Proposing to adopt safer materials in affordable housing, which would protect the health of affordable housing residents and reduce toxic waste and water contamination, we received funding of $1 million from the Stormwater Center in 2024 through the Washington State Department of Ecology, like Laura mentioned before. And so right now we are currently underway with this project, and we are implementing this flooring replacement program by working with affordable housing groups in King County to replace less healthy flooring, such as vinyl and carpet, with safer options. Phase one is currently wrapping up, where we worked with DESC, providing funding for them to replace carpet in corridors and common areas with a safer linoleum flooring product. Through this project, DESC was able to replace carpet in 6 buildings with linoleum flooring, which is safer for both health and the environment. And the specific buildings included 1811 Eastlake, Canada House, Morrison Hotel, Union Hotel, Rainier House, and Kerner Scott House. The specific carpet that they replaced was a Cambridge Oxford product. Again, this replacement was done in corridors and common areas, and that was replaced with a Forbo MCT linoleum flooring product. As for phase two, we will look to expand upon phase one here and hopefully work with more groups across King County to replace hazardous flooring with safer options. This work will begin later this year to identify priority communities to partner with. And with what we've worked on and learned so far, especially from phase one and the research that we did going into it, we've gathered a lot of information on how this shift to safer flooring in affordable housing can be made. And we're excited to share these findings with you all today so that you can take this into consideration when specifying new products in affordable housing. And so next slide. So before we get into the specific findings of the project and the recommendations for safer flooring, which Gladys will present on, first I'll provide some further background on why it is so important that we do use safer flooring materials. And so to read this quote here, this quote reads, "Low socioeconomic and BIPOC populations are disproportionately impacted from the negative health impacts associated with building materials due to increased exposure to toxic materials in their homes, jobs, and environment." When we talk about building materials, it makes a lot of sense to think about how our exposures come from the places that we inhabit. Whether that be from home to work to school, we know that humans spend a majority of their time indoors. It's also especially important to think about the populations who are disproportionately impacted. Everyone has the right to live healthy lives, and this is achievable when we recognize that there are actually safer materials that do exist, and we don't need to be using ones with toxic chemicals. This is an exposure that can be entirely avoided. And so, like I just mentioned, people spend a vast majority of their time indoors. Research has actually found that that is 90% of our time. And I've been kind of alluding to this whole concept of building materials containing harmful chemicals. And so this specifically can look like a range of things. While today's focus is going to be on flooring, we know that other materials, including things like wall coverings and sealants and paints, can all contain a variety of chemicals toxic to human health. And so again, because we spend so much time indoors, this is one reason why we should ensure that we have non-toxic building materials in our built environments. And also, in addition to what was shown on the previous slide, some of the specific vulnerable populations that live in affordable housing can include children, people with disabilities, and older adults. We also know from studies and reports that affordable housing communities have been found to experience multiple exposures. One report in particular actually found that over 9,000 federally subsidized housing properties are located within a mile of Superfund sites. So not only are communities potentially being exposed by the things that are in their very homes, but also in their surrounding outdoor environments. And to just kind of wrap up painting this broader picture, we also know that there is a lack of federal regulation on chemicals used in building materials. And so, with that being a fact, this then often falls on a lot of other stakeholders at state and local levels who are committed to creating healthy spaces to take the steps that they need to protect communities. And so I've talked a bit about the concerns we have when toxic chemicals are used in affordable housing and implications for affordable housing communities that are surrounded by these materials. As to the exact reason why this is so concerning, one of the mechanisms by the ways this works is that when toxic chemicals are used in the production of materials, those chemicals are not actually chemically bound to these products a lot of the times. And as a result, the chemicals that are added into our products, like building materials, can actually leach out and contaminate the environments at each step of their life cycle, whether that be indoor or outdoor environments. Again, these are chemicals that are often hazardous for both human health and the environment. So the fact that exposure and contamination can occur at each step of a product and chemicals life cycle is greatly concerning. In this graphic here on this slide, it focuses on a chemical class called PFAS, which are those forever chemicals that are really persistent and don't break down in the environment. You likely have heard a lot about these in the news over the years, since there is a lot of widespread contamination with this particular chemical. We also know that beyond some of the consumer products and water contamination sources that this chemical has been found in, this chemical can also be present in carpet backing, so something that's relevant to today's discussion. And so while this graphic focuses on PFAS, it can also be applied for how we think about the use of toxic chemicals across the board. And so, all to say, with what this really describes here in this slide is that when we use toxic chemicals to make products, workers at chemical production facilities can be exposed to harmful effects, and these chemicals can migrate into surrounding air, water, soil, and communities. And then when these chemicals and materials are actually transported, which I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide in a bit, they can pose further risks to the environment. Again, because these chemicals aren't actually chemically bound to the products they are made in or added to, they can then migrate into our indoor environments and contaminate our indoor dust and air. And then lastly, during disposal, these materials then get incinerated, releasing these chemicals that they were produced with, and sometimes toxic chemical byproducts upon disposal back into the environment, further polluting our waterways, air, soil, and sometimes our wildlife. And this can lead to harmful exposures as well for surrounding communities. Something interesting to note here too is that this poses important concerns for recycling. If a building material contains hazardous chemicals, we want to keep that in mind, and don't want that to be recycled into other materials downstream, which might further continue to have some of those same toxic ingredients. So all in all, with this slide to say here, it's really evident that using hazardous building materials doesn't just pose one exposure concern, but there are widespread effects for multiple communities and the environment when we do use products with harmful chemicals. And so this here is an example that unfortunately really captures why we are so concerned about the life cycle impacts of hazardous building materials. And this is the 2023 East Palestine train derailment in Ohio. Some of you might be familiar with this, but this is an incident where trains carrying toxic vinyl chloride, which is a chemical that is a known human carcinogen, actually derailed. We know that 99% of vinyl chloride that is produced is actually used to produce PVC plastic because vinyl chloride is one of the main building blocks of PVC. And so when the trains carrying vinyl chloride derailed, this resulted in vinyl chloride leaking into the surrounding community. And the smoke plume that was released not only included vinyl chloride, but also other persistent harmful byproducts. And so we have actually found in our research at Toxic Free Future that the production of PVC releases hundreds of thousands of pounds of carcinogenic vinyl chloride into the air every year in the United States. So that also just goes to show that during production, this is already a concern. But now with this example here, that was really, really unfortunate. We also know that transportation of these hazardous chemicals and materials in itself can also lead to further risks and harms to communities and environments along the transportation cycle. And so, as for the specific chemicals that we are concerned about in flooring products, this chart sums up some of the ones that we are concerned about and aware of. And so, we know that in composite wood flooring, formaldehyde is a main chemical of concern there. This is a particular chemical that causes cancer, eye, nose, and throat irritation, as well as difficulty breathing. Formaldehyde can also be found in other products in our indoor environments, such as our personal care products. So this just goes to show that this is another source of exposure in our homes. Vinyl flooring is also obviously a concern, as mentioned from the slide before. Again, we know that PVC production and disposal can create harmful human carcinogens like vinyl chloride, and PVC itself may contain a variety of chemical additives concerning for health, including phthalates, which act as plasticizers in vinyl. And then carpet also has a similar concern. So if they ever incorporate the use of vinyl, they'll have the same PVC concerns there. Like I mentioned earlier briefly, PFAS, those forever chemicals, can also be found in carpet backing. And those chemicals are associated with a range of health effects, including immune system suppression, heightening cholesterol levels, and causing cancer. The last chemical of concern with carpet would be heavy metals, and this can also be found in fly ash and associated with things like nervous system disorders. And so these are all the things that we want to avoid, and luckily we know that there are safer materials that do exist. And so to wrap up my section of this presentation, I know I focused a lot on the concerns that we have around chemical use and the ingredients inside of our products. I want to say, though, that it's not all doom and gloom, however, and there are things that we can do to reduce harmful exposures to toxic building materials. I would say that this flooring replacement program in itself is a huge success in recognition of the fact that we do need safer products, and that it is important for our communities to have safer building materials in their homes. I think this project really came together by the three organizations, HDC, Side by Side Architects, and Toxic Free Future, coming together and sharing our expertise. And that allowed us to really combine our knowledge and propose this plan to replace flooring in affordable housing. I think the fact that we were able to receive funding from Ecology goes to show how important of an issue this is, and shows that they also agree that we need to make sure that we are using safe materials, being a critical thing for human health and the environment to prevent any disposal runoff when we dispose of these products. Another thing here too that is really important, I think, especially for this audience, is it's important to note that Washington State actually leads the way on toxic chemical policies. Um, we One particular groundbreaking law that we have in Washington is the Safer Products for Washington Act. This is a program that is also run by Ecology. This is a law that was passed in 2019, which regulates priority chemicals of concern to health and the environment in priority product categories in 5-year cycles. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but basically this is a law that regulates different products and chemicals every 5 years in Washington State. The program is currently in its second cycle right now, but the really important thing about this particular policy is that during every cycle, Ecology holds open comment phases and hearings for stakeholders to participate in throughout the rulemaking process. So this is a really engaged process where people can come together and voice why they're concerned about different chemicals in the products that they're using, and that can be people at all sorts of stakeholder levels, whether it be consumers, manufacturers, or people like Gladys, who's also presented during these hearings, which has been super helpful to have her expertise in affordable housing and architecture. Experts like Gladys can also come into this process and provide their feedback and comments to Ecology directly. So this is a really powerful way, I think, for people to make it known that there are things that we want to get done in this state and that we want to protect communities from harmful building products. And this is an open way that we can do so. So all to say, when toxic chemicals are used, there are, again, many downstream effects. They can contaminate our environments, whether that be our waterways and our wildlife. They can get burned during wildfires and expose firefighters, or build up in our indoor environments, in our bodies, exposing communities like affordable housing groups. And even specifically, one other interesting pathway is women can also pass on chemicals through breast milk to their babies. So there are all sorts of downstream effects when we do allow toxic chemicals to be used in our products. But on the other side, there are things that can be done. Like I just said, we can participate in policymaking processes. And if anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to pass on more information. We can advocate for safer materials and actually adopt them when we're working with buildings like affordable housing buildings. And that will only push the market towards safer as well. And so I think one other key takeaway too from what we've seen in this project, besides the specific recommendations we'll get into, is really just the partnership aspect to it. I think we really saw a lot of headway with this work once we all came together and were able to combine our expertise. I think separately we were all really interested in this, but it was really when we came together, worked together as a team, and had this integrated effort, we gained that recognition from ecology of how important this is and that we are capable of driving safer materials in affordable housing. And so with that, I will pass it on to Gladys to cover the results from phase one and the actual recommendations on how we can adopt safer flooring.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes, Megan. All right, learnings from phase one. I saw a few DESC folks, Downtown Emergency Service Center folks in the audience, so thank you for joining us today. And for our replacement projects, as Megan mentioned, 6 sites DESC with replacing linoleum, using linoleum, no, using linoleum instead of carpet in corridors and common areas. For 6 sites, we avoided 400,000 water bottles worth of plastic because the carpet has a plastic backing. So over a 60-year period, accounting for replacements, this translates to an estimated 4.5 million water bottles worth of plastic avoided. And because linoleum is primarily a bio-based material, this swap also reduces embodied carbon and avoiding over 4,000 gallons of gasoline worth of carbon dioxide equivalent in initial install. So over this same 60-year period, this translates to almost 50,000 gallons of gasoline worth of carbon dioxide equivalent avoided. And we have this project of approximately 36,000 square foot of flooring replacement. And Rebecca Stam, from the principal researcher from Habitable, helped us with this calculation you're seeing here. So as Megan mentioned, we're really super grateful for all the collaborative efforts because it really takes all of us to make the case to shift to safer materials. And then, so the big picture of this is that think of the impacts we all can do together with the collective square footage that we are responsible for. So vinyl flooring is commonly used as the baseline option for affordable housing because it's inexpensive and easy to install. And as we identify feasible saver options, we recognize that an alternative would need to beat that, would need to be satisfy the characteristic that are favored in this baseline vinyl flooring option, such as being comparable in cost, thickness, and format. So otherwise, it will be hard for developers to adopt other alternatives. So for our initial process, we researched over 40 flooring products. And the top row you see here shows some of these characteristics reviewed. But there are more, but we can't, it's too many to show here. So then our final recommendation consists of 7 products, and here are 3 of them. And this research is cross-coordinated with Habitable's informed red to green guidance, as you see the color chart on the left. I want to point out a few characteristics. So vinyl flooring is typically about 2 millimeter thick. So any alternative should be similar in thickness. And vinyl flooring is also typically around $2 to $250 per square foot. An alternative would need to be comparable in cost. And linoleum, the saver alternative, can range in cost between $2 to $3. So while they are other comparable while there are comparable cost options, sometimes the cost of saver flooring might be more expensive, but it's important to keep in mind that these options typically have longer warranty than the vinyl, which vinyl has 15 years. As you can see, these options we are showing 30 to 25 years. So for this stormwater flooring replacement project, we have two criteria to meet when choosing the saver alternatives. Number one is using habitable informed yellow to green, the product guidance to select product types in the yellow and green section. And the other one is the product has ingredient transparency. I will introduce the habitable informed product guidance and the transparency in the next couple slides. So habitable informed guidance is an intuitive red to green color ranking compiles decades of their comprehensive research about health impacts of chemicals throughout the product life cycle. And as I mentioned before, Rebecca Stam from Habitable reviewed our research on flooring products and helped us rank the products using the red to green color ranking. And I also mentioned that the criteria for safer flooring, we use the yellow and green section. So the full spectrum is from red to green, but we only allow the yellow, light green, and to the green ranking to be for our saver choices. Material transparency allow us to research hidden product impacts like embodied carbon, toxic ingredients, or byproducts, and social responsibility in the supply chain. So one way to ask for material transparency is look for the product's health product declarations, HPD, which disclose ingredients and other toxicity profiles. For this label, so you can see the label on the left, it's important to check the threshold level, and it should be around 100 parts per million, ppm. And this concentration is a more stringent reporting and signals an increased transparency with more granular information. So for this label on the left, again, this is for linoleum flooring. And I put out some details on the right in large fonts so you could see. This product, linoleum, does not have PFAS, and it is red list free. And red list free means this product does not include the worst in class toxic chemicals. So another example of materials transparency that you might have heard of is the environmental product declaration, EPDs, and which shows the environmental impacts of producing and disposing of products. And so HPD is for health and toxicity, and EPD is for environmental impacts over its lifetime. Costs, everybody's favorite topic. So as I was we have 7 products, and here are some of the sample costs that you could see. For the linoleum product, the MCS is with the adhesive is around $2.60 per square foot. The one of the other PVC option is around the similar price. And then the chosen product MCT is around $3.40 with the adhesive. And you can see then there's another option for the PVC is around that price. The vinyl composition tile, VCT, is very commonly used and is around $2.50 square foot a tile with the adhesive. Sometimes what is not included in this cost equation is the coating that you need to put on top. And then as you can see, it is really achievable if you really kind of put a little time dissecting the cost of what you're paying for the vinyl flooring. Key takeaways for this phase 1. Cost, as I already mentioned just now, is one of the goals of the stormwater replacement, flooring replacement project is to help the affordable housing sector understand that there is cost parity, especially if we aggregate our purchasing power. So I spent time developing relationships with manufacturers and distributors to get lower costs for the affordable housing sector. But some of these manufacturers are recognizing the importance of that, and they're offering everyone these lower cost um, supply chain and availability. So this group purchasing power will help shape our supply chain by indicating that the affordable housing sector needs healthy, non-toxic materials for our residents and our planet. Okay, yes. Okay, so so durability is of course very important to everyone. DESC said that over and over again. So DESC already like using the linoleum product because they've used that before in the other projects. And they picked linoleum as the saver materials that is easy to maintain and has a long service life. Linoleum has a 30-year warranty and a 50-year service life. And the manufacturer, Forbo, told us that the savings over its lifetime are substantial. They said that Kaiser Permanente told them that for every 100,000 square foot install saves them 1,000 hours in maintenance, as well as significantly less use of chemicals. Another thing that we heard from DSC is the sheeting and the seams. So that they said that they prefer tiles because it makes it easier to repair and replace and in the common areas. And linoleum requires no heat welding. So unlike vinyl and plastic chemical floorings, linoleum is completely dimensionally stable. So according to the installer, vinyl flooring shrinks in every dimension from day one due to plasticizers migration, which is the plasticizers escape into the substrate and causing this shrinkage. And so for linoleum, it is also moisture impervious. And so unlike VCT and vinyl, it can withstand floods and standing water. Sustainability. This is another goal of the stormwater flooring replacement project is to help the affordable housing sector understand the ups and downstream impacts of the materials. For DSC, they know that linoleum is a bio-based floor. It is naturally biostatic and anti-static and warm and quiet. But VCT is made with vinyl, and then even cleaning it wash off the vinyl, and it goes to our wastewater. And for the product selected, which is MCT, the manufacturer uses, if it's important for you, is they use no child and slave labor in the factories. So as Megan pointed out earlier, toxic chemicals are used in the production of materials. They often are not chemically bonded to these products, and as a result can leach out and contaminate our indoor environment. So, and just important, the point she make is that these chemicals and materials are hazardous to our human health and the environment at every step of their life cycle. So from production to manufacturing, use, and end of life. So speaking of end of life, the last point is disposal. So circular material movement is gaining momentum. So for this grant project, we worked with a take back recycle third-party vendor called DTG Recycling at a very reasonable price. And they have an existing working relationship with DESC already, and they can take back the flooring, the carpet in this case, they strip the carpet off and they recycle the backing. Um, and then other manufacturers has their own take back program and oftentimes is free. Um, and for our team, as Megan mentioned, Toxic Free Future, Habitable Living Future, and Side by Side, architects have worked together on the affordable housing material specification and prior to this grant project. And for that work, we put together for the HDC Housing Development Consortium, a healthy material matrix you see on the left over here. And then it is organized by CSI division, and this data is cross-coordinated with Living Future Affordable Housing Healthy Materials Recommendations and Habitables Informed Red to Green Guidance. And access to to resources is one of the challenges to shift to healthy materials for affordable housing. So this resource is free for everyone and is on the HDC Exemplary Building Program website, and is also hosted on our side-by-side website and the resources. On the right here is the 7 products flooring recommendation, and then it's also hosted on the same websites. Okay, now we're going to just talk a little bit about general shifts to safer materials and affordable housing. Only a few more slides left. We have time for questions at the end. So it has been a long journey, but we are really making, hopefully you can see that we're making meaningful progress. So example of one of the most recently completed affordable housing project is we have tried our very best to incorporate safer materials, and given our very many challenges, including our tight budgets. And so this project is called White Center Hub Project. Hub is Hope, Unity, and Belonging. The client is a collaboration between the White Center Community Development Association, the CDA, and community roots housing. We have 76 affordable housing and a community center with health and social services. So with deep community engagement, I want to highlight one question that was asked at one of these community meetings. And this question was asked: why does everyone I know has asthma? So this linked back to what Megan said earlier. Low income and BIPOC populations often has underlying health issues, conditions due to the increased exposure in their homes, jobs, and environment. So it is our duty when we do affordable housing and for the indoor environment to really be cognizant of this upstream and downstream's impact for our entire ecosystem. So for this project, for the housing and the community center, we have no vinyl flooring. We use fiberglass and aluminum windows, so no vinyl windows, metal and wood and siding with we also have fiber cement siding, which are the smaller format. But I don't know whether any of you know that the large format fiber cement is used a lot because they are cheaper. And so then the large format, every time you have to make a cut on site, it releases silica. And oftentimes the person who is doing this work is a people of color person who, like they say, they don't wear a mask. And so they breathe that in and really kind of cause a lot of damage to the lungs. I just want everybody to be cognizant of that. We use TPO roofing, which is a non-vinyl roofing. We have mineral wool, bats, and board insulation, PEX and cast iron water pipes, so no vinyl pipes, and then paints to avoid APE, which is a chemical, is an endocrine disruptor, and then a PFAS to avoid PFAS. And it was very challenging to not use vinyl products as it costs more. And then affordable housing projects has very challenging budgets. So it takes the whole team from the community asking for it, the owner believing in it, and the contractor and architects to really get us there. This again mention Habitable a lot because they are really a kind of a close collaborator with us, that we use this tool, that this is the benchmarking tool. So it's like an Excel spreadsheet, you put in the products you use, and then it would help you, give you a color guiding relating to the red to green ranking. So the pre is a before, like, you put that in, you could see that there was a lot of red and orange. And then after is the project as is built now. So you can see that we have made an attempt to actually, Rebecca always from Habitable say one step at a time, one step better. So you can see that at least we try, it is, maybe several steps better. This is Habitable ran this data for us again. And so for White Center Affordable Housing, the housing portion, by switching from the vinyl flooring to a PVC-free resilient flooring throughout the units, the project avoided almost 10,000 pounds of PVC, which is one of the most toxic plastics. And so that is really awesome data set that they could help provide for us. But you too could get this if you go use their benchmarking tool. All right, so I think this is perfectly time. We have 15 minutes. I want to thank you to all of you been here for the last 45 minutes. And we have, I think, 15 minutes for question.
And we do have a question from Keely Moore. Keely, feel free to unmute yourself or I can read the question.
Yeah, I just had a question about fiberglass windows. I know you mentioned it on your list. We have, I know of Cascadia and Alpin, but I don't know of any other affordable fiberglass windows. So all of our affordable housing projects have been having to default to UPVC, which I know is still, just because I put a U in front of it doesn't mean it's any better. But for budget wise, we can't make fiberglass work.
Yes, it's a huge challenge. So I think we have to budget it from the beginning. So if it is more expensive, just like face it. So then I think you have to reduce it in other areas. Less articulation on your building, less other things. So it's a total, that's why I say it takes everybody. So the owners say they want this, and then the contractor, and architects, somehow like, is this matrix math exercise of the bottom, the budget is still the end, we have to meet the budget. So then you kind of cutting different things, different everywhere. So we did use Alpen for this one. And then I think there is, I think Peller is also do have a fiberglass option now. Cascadia we use in the community building because it's a community building so that, there's different criteria for maintaining longevity and things. And so we did use Cascadia on the community building and Alpen. Yeah, so it is a math problem for everyone to put their heads together. This is very tough.
Any other questions? We've got plenty of time here. If folks want to just unmute and go ahead and speak, or you can raise your hand, whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Actually, I do have another question. I was glad to see that you had the pivot product by Shaw contract because that one is one we have not used yet, and we were glad. So we aren't sure how durable it is, but we are putting it in one of our projects that's going to be done in June. I'm curious if you have any experience with all the other bio-based material. It's kind of like a bio-based flooring, but it's still polyurethane. Do you have any experience with the durability and cost of those?
So I think the pivot, we have that in the White Center project. So that's no problem yet. So and then the bio-based flooring, depending on what manufacturer, there's different manufacturer. So are you referring to the Shaw bio base?
There's another one, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. See if I can find it. But there's like this class of bio-based polyurethane flooring that is kind of new, that they're trying to be non-PVC, but they're still not natural. So it's like a mix of like not as bad, but not that great. It's kind of my sense. So I'm not sure if you have an experience with those.
Yes, we're putting in one of the project of that Shaw bio-based. I forgot the name of the product off the top of my head, but if you go to the website, you will find it. Try not to be like salesperson for any manufacturer, but I think that's what there's a new. I think that particular bio-based flooring was developed for the healthcare sector and now is more available to other sectors. So I think that has a very healthcare sector has a durable, you know, it needs to be very durable, and so that's what the manufacturer said. as I said, putting it in one of their projects right now. And that according to Habitable, we have a lot of discussion on that. Bio-based, they can't place it yet because that particular bio-based flooring only disclosed the ingredient to 1,000 ppm, as I was showing you the HPD. And so because it's a newer product, at the time that Shaw was the only one making it, now Armstrong is also making it. So with it being, it is a newer product. So then with more data available, then the Habitable team, might be able to add that in their product guidance. And that I think that initial conversation with them is that it's probably going to be ranked similar to the PVC-free products or something like that.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. The product I was thinking of is called Pure Line. I put a link in the chat. It's like Wineo,
Oh,
or
good to
Wineo.
know.
So Pure Line is one that we have used we're starting to use it, so we still haven't tested how well it performs, but it is also through color, so hopefully, less scratching and stuff like that.
Yeah, wow, that's good. One more option. Yeah, great.
I guess similar to the um, fiberglass window question, were you guys successful in getting roller shades into affordable housing projects? We have difficulty getting anything besides vinyl veins,
We got metal,
mini blinds.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
not, but then the community center portion, we got our PVC free roller shade. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, do you have,
I know.
so wait, is that in your recommendations on the matrix? PVC free
It could be on the
roller
bigger
shade?
matrix. It could be on the CSI, the one on
Right. I
yeah.
guess I was looking through that one because that's something that we were having difficulty finding. So I'll look through your list, but yeah, if you've
Mhm.
had any experience, it'd be helpful to know which one.
Yeah, email. We install it, so I could just tell you what it is. Okay, so I put my
I
email.
can also email you. Yeah.
Yeah, email me. I put my email in the. Yeah, I think this is the goal of if everybody start researching and they find stuff, that's the goal for that the CSI division specification matrix, the healthy material matrix, is to just like put it in there so then we could share that um, finding with everyone.
Yeah, I totally applaud the graphics are really great and really clear. So thank you for sharing that.
Great. Yeah. Many minds.
Of course.
Also, for those of you that may not have had your chat on, at the beginning of the meeting, I dropped in a bunch of links to HDC side by side and Toxic Free Futures websites, as well as the flooring matrix where it's located on our website.
I guess I have another question. Quartz is also at the top of our countertop recommendations, but I've also had conversations with others about silicosis and the silica content of quartz countertops.
Yes.
Have you guys also been having
Yes.
those conversations?
Yes. Quartz is one of those that is been then oh, I can't say that because I can't tell you what Habitable said yet because they are releasing that new product guidance. But I think it is quartz. You have to be there's caution right now because of what you just said just now.
Hmm. Okay,
So
yeah.
you're
I'm
up to
glad that
date.
I guess I'm glad that Habitable is like starting to
Yes,
update based on that. Yeah.
they're gonna release their
Which is
uh
unfortunate because it's like one of the few countertops that doesn't require sealing. So
I know.
yeah. Although at one point they had a PFAS working group where they recommended a non-PFAS granite sealer, so I can share that in the chat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And of course, DBA is well represented here. They're like the leader and doing a lot of this work too. So thanks for joining. And our lunch and learn. Yeah, I think there's like much needed for countertop now because of that, what you just said, and also paint. Paint is like we need to find. I think right now there is like not only is that APE free, we need to find PFAS free paint, which is harder to find. And so I think we are able to use certain sheen of Sherwin-Williams high performance HP paint, which doesn't have both, but not all the sheens are safe. But while we have Megan here, anybody has really good questions for Megan?
I actually see a question in the chat from Keely about recycled plastic, which is a great question about plastic bottles made into shades and being worried about microplastics. I would say that microplastics definitely are a growing concern coming from kind of the more like plastic side of things. Most of my research so far and work has been on the plastic side and toxic chemicals in consumer products. So we are seeing widespread concern there, but we don't know, I think, if anyone's really quantified from building materials what that exposure looks like. But also, I think that kind of speaks to like the more nuanced outlook on all of this. It's a lot to have to look into the specific exposures from each thing, and we know that there's already like these things are made from plastic. So I think when it comes to a lot of this, it's really about doing what we can and making those substitutions in the areas that we can when possible. It's hard to completely get rid of plastic, I think, as we all know. But there definitely have been concerns there. We've done other research on other kinds of consumer products where we've seen that harmful chemicals that are put into television enclosures can get recycled into other consumer products as well. So that's kind of separate from building materials, but the concept of plastic items being able to carry the additives that they're made with is very evident. But yeah, I think something just to kind of cycle back to something I mentioned earlier in the presentation too is we do have some concerns with recycling, especially when those toxic materials and ingredients are used. But at the same time too, what we've learned through working on this project, and as Gladys had mentioned, is that we are working with recyclers to recycle the carpet flooring that DESC is removing. And oftentimes at this point, we might not have the most perfect solution, but it is a better solution than what we can do with disposal at this very moment, which can put more harmful chemicals into the environment compared to when we can actually recycle. So I think it's, again, kind of speaks to the whole need of how we all need to kind of have that aggregated approach of coming together to really advocate for this change, because it's not until we have those policy and market changes at those higher levels that we can really make sure that we have safer levels in products in our homes.
Paula, do you want to share?
Sure, yeah. Here, I have to turn my video on too, if I can. Yes, hopefully you can see me now. So yeah, I work for Foundation Communities, and we have used the Marmoleum MCT for years in our learning centers. And there was definitely a learning curve for our staff maintenance team to maintain the flooring properly. And even after doing owner training, I even found out people were still wanting to wax the floor, which you should not be doing. And so just some things that wanted to share that proper education of those that are maintaining the space is always key. And that we found that we had to work special contracts with our cleaning crew, because mopping would, if the mopping water wasn't changed frequently enough, you'd see like a cloudiness on the floor. So people thought the floor was dirty when it really wasn't. And then we also learned that it was best for our use in just the high traffic and rough use of the space, that it was best that we scheduled to have the floor cleaned, like with a deep clean. And they have very specific instructions on what the proper the maintenance pads to use when you clean, and like the process of cleaning properly once a year. And so since we've done that, it's really improved it, and people realized it wasn't that the floor was dirty or yucky. We just weren't maintaining it properly. So wanted to share that. We love the product. We still use it. So, but just please educate your staff about how to properly maintain it.
Great. Can you give us a testimony like that for our phase one report.
That's great information. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think we're excited with phase two rolling out sometime soon. So then I would be on more than one provider, right? Laura, do you want to wrap up for us?
Yeah, any final thoughts from anybody? Burning questions? Going once, going twice.
I guess what is the phase two of the program?
Oh, yeah, great question. So, phase two will be another. It's called a pilot phase two. So basically, we will be selecting another affordable housing provider to work with and do a replacement of their flooring, similar to what we did with DESC. So, to the extent that you are representing, or whether you are a housing provider or you are representing housing providers that you think would be good candidates, please feel free to reach out to me directly or Gladys or Megan. We'll be collecting names from people as they submit them, as well as doing a solicitation, probably fall time frame for fall to winter of 2026. So yeah, just keep an eye out. It will be coming out for solicitation, and we'll have an opportunity to work with another affordable housing provider. So it'll be the same type of project as the DESC, just with new provider, a new housing provider, and utilizing what we've learned in phase one. All right. It could also maybe be more than one provider, so just FYI. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will follow up with a recording link after we get this posted to YouTube in a couple of days. I'll also include all of the links that were shared during the conversation and contact information for all of us. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you throughout the year. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.